So like I've said for the past couple of weeks, or the last few races we've been to, be sure to subscribe to the channel today so that way you don't miss any of the content going forward. We are live here at the Bristol Dragway. We're going to be live for the Norwalk Nationals in a couple weeks time, possibly Brainerd, and of course the US National and everything in between. So if you enjoy the motorsports content that we provide here, be sure to subscribe to the channel today, hit the notification bell, all that fun stuff, so that way you don't miss a single bit of the action as we head into these exhilarating summer months. And without further ado, let's get into the video. I said this last year when I came here for the first time. This track is probably, right now, it is the most beautiful track on the NHRA calendar that we have since I can't think of the name right now. Bandimere. I should have remembered that. Since Bandimere shut down, this track has taken the rightful place that it should since it's gone, of the most scenic track with the mountainous landscape in the background, the fact that the drag strip is built into the side of a hill, the beautiful Appalachian Mountain, Smoky Mountain view all around where you can see. I said it last year, I'm going to repeat it. This track could have been, this land could have been anything in the world, but it just so happened to be a drag strip, and thank God it did, because this is, without a doubt, probably one of the coolest racetracks you can come to on the entire NHRA calendar. If you can come out here, do it. If you can't, make plans to come out here, because this is a bucket list track for anybody that considers himself a racing fan or just a motorsports or drag racing fan in general. We have a lot of the highlights to go through today, so a bit of the highlights going from this before we get into the results. Q1, I kind of said that this was going to be a similar weather condition to Epping. It was really hot around the time Q1 hit, and I talked to a couple of crew guys, and they told me that this was going to be an R&D run to get ready for the night session, so that way they could go out there and try and set a hot lap, so that way they had something to rely on going into Saturday, and that's exactly what happened in Funny Car. Nobody hit a 3-second run. You're seeing 3.8s in the top fuel class, some 3.6s in Pro Stock, like a 3.66. There wasn't anything that was going to blow your mind and think, wow, what an incredible run. But when Q2 came around, they showed up, and they showed up big. Some big numbers put down by some of the top guys in the class, and they really are starting to cement themselves within these summer months of who is going to be the championship contenders and who's going to be lying on the back foot as they head towards the countdown. You saw guys like Bob Tasca, who had a bad run in Q1, came into Q2, laid down a heavy 390, and got themselves pretty high up on the running order to end off night one. Same for guys like Austin Prock and Clay Millican had a really good run. Erica Enders laid down the hammer in Pro Stock for Q2, and then Matt Smith and Chase Van Sant really impressed a lot of people, including myself, with the runs that they did. So without further ado, let's look into the results, because there are some big surprises in the running order over there. In Pro Stock Motorcycle, Matt Smith took #1 honors to end off Q1 and 2. He ran a 6.788 in the Q2 session with a bit of the sun out. Chase Van Sant ran against the same pair with Gaige Herrera, beat his 60-foot time. Not only that, he beat him on reaction time with a 002 light. Destroyed him there, had a really solid run. We saw it back in Chicago. Chase Van Sant is probably right now the top guy that has a shot, realistically, of beating Gaige Herrera on a given weekend. Gaige Herrera finished off in 3rd. He was about 5th or 6th in the Q1 and rebounded up to a top 3 finish. Richard Gatson, his teammate, in 4th. John Hall back in 5th. Mark Ingwerson in 6th. Chris Bostick rounds out 7th with Steve Johnson in the 8th position. 9th, you're going to find the Rat Ron Torno. The Rat is back and is dancing on the starting line. I told people in NHRA you need to add him to the Weekend Rewind, and they said hard pass. So if you like the Rat, please, they're going to hate me for this. Spam the NHRA channels and tell them you want the dancing around the Weekend Rewinds, because it is a good thing to see. And even though people might think it's silly, hey, we're talking about it, aren't we? In 10th, Hector Ronick Jr. 11th is going to be Ryan Ayler. 12th, Angie Smith did not have a good run in the first session. Going to Q2, her bike would not start. She was unable to make a run. She has to rely on that 12th position. Kelly Klontz 13th after a 25-second run in Q1. It was barely enough to rebound up to 13th. Gianna Evaristo, 2 disappointing runs, a 7.572, finds herself in the 14th and final spot. There's only 14 bikes here, so there will be 2 bye runs in the first round on Sunday. In Pro Stock, those around the end of Q2, there was an incident when Jerry Tucker blew a motor that allowed the sun to go down. He had full track cover, and you saw some big runs. The top 3, all drivers that were in those last 2 pairs that were under full darkness. Erica Enders laid down a monster of a run. 6.631, finds herself #1 spot. Greg Anderson rounds out 2nd. Jack Hoffman in 3rd. Dallas Glenn, your points leader, ends up in 4th. Troy Coffin Jr. winning back at Epping rounds out 5th. Aaron Stanfield 6th. David Quadro with an impressive run in 7th. Brandon Foster in 8th. Matt Hartford 9th. Kenny Delco 10th. 11th Chris McGahey. 12th Derek Kramer. 13th is Christian Quadro. 14th Larry Morgan. 15th Mason McGahey. On the bump spot is Jerry Tucker, who, like I said, blew a motor in a Q2 run. He's going to be coming in to Saturday looking to improve to get himself safely into the show. Fernando Quadro Jr. currently the first car out, and Eric Latino with a disappointing run finds himself down in 18th. Had a scary moment in Q2 where he almost crossed the center line and almost crashed that thing. Very lucky that he was able to hold on to it. Funny car. Austin Prock continues to impress, an absolutely incredible run in Q2, a 3.958. Sees him take number 1 honors. Alexis Joria with a good rebound for the last couple weeks. She ends up second. Ron Capps rounds out 3rd. Like I said, Bob Tasca was the first car out in qualifying on the Q2. Bumps his way from last all the way up to 4th. Chad Green 5th. Shout out Terry Haddock, once again, a really impressive run here on a Friday night session. They ran a 3.95 back at Epping, we come back here, 4.008. With the struggles that some teams are facing, that's good enough for another top half qualifying honors. Hopefully they can hold on to it heading into the final 2 sessions. Paul Lee was number 1 qualifier heading into Q2. He finds himself bumped down to 7th. Cruz Pedregon 8th. John Forrest in 9th was not able to improve after a very scary moment where he almost crossed the center line, spun the tires about half track, and just barely hanged on, scraped at the edge of the car against the racetrack, but did not cross the center line. He ends up 9th. Daniel Wilkerson 10th, 11th Jared Todd, 12th Matt Hagan, 13th Dave Richards, 14th Bobby Bodie, who had a lot of issues in Q2, was not able to really make a run, had to get out of the car and abandon ship during his run to allow John Smith to make a run. John Smith ended up 15th. Buddy Hull right now, the last car, in 16th. There are only, I believe, 17 cars. 1 car will go home right now. It's Jim Campbell, who has not shown up to make a run. Lastly, in Top Fuel, Clay Millican got himself some cake points. Number 1 qualifier to end off today at 786, ran 325. You saw the significance of that. If you don't know the story, his son, Don Millican, who passed away a couple of years ago, ran at number 25. He ran a 25 for a long time, so a 325 here at Bristol, the track where he won on Father's Day weekend right after his son passed. A lot of significance within that number. Justin Ashley ends up number 2. Antron Brown 3rd. Sean Langdon ends 4th. Jasmine Salinas with an impressive run up to 5th. Steve Torrance ends 6th. His dad, Billy Torrance, 7th. Tony Storr, again, just like Epping, finishes off right now in 8th. Doug Foley, an impressive run up in 9th. Josh Hart, 10th. Cody Cronin continuing to impress, down in 11th. Tony Schumacher, 12th. The reigning champion, Doug Coletta, in 13th. Sean Reed, 14th. And Brittany Forrest, once again struggling, finds herself in 15th. 1 car did not make an attempt today. They find themselves, I don't even remember the name of the driver who it was, but right now they're currently not even in the show because they haven't gone out to make a run. They were going to run in Q1, but sadly we're not able to get out in time. Had struggling on the starting line, had to back out of it, so they're going to come back in tomorrow to try and bump their way in back into the show in only a 16-car field. So we got an opportunity today, thanks to the Bristol Motor Speedway, to have an media availability with a lot of the drivers. We had some interesting questions and some really good answers. Let's listen to them before we wrap it up here at Bristol. So last year, around this time, that Leah's team had started to finally get their foot set on the ground. They started running away and having that bid for the championship. Last week at Epping, you had a similar thing after what happened in Chicago with the first round exit, number 16 qualifier come in, number 8 qualifier, get to actually win some rounds. How important was that for you and your team to get that weekend down and then coming into this, seeing that you're kind of having a similar season to what they had last year going into the summer?
Yeah, you're right. It's very, very similar, I feel like. And I probably was more excited than anybody at the end of the weekend. I mean, the guys kind of had their chins down because we lost the close one to Doug. But, you know, we've made 4 solid qualifying runs. I mean, the first one, we knew that we had it set up to be soft and it wasn't going to be a fast lap, but it was going to at least get down, hopefully. And, you know, the last 3 trips to that track, that they hadn't made it down the first run. So that was the goal first round. Had 3 solid rounds after that of qualifying and, you know, almost went to the semis. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the progress. We had an Indy test that I feel like showed some things that we were looking for. And so the crew chiefs were happy when we left and then had a good weekend to follow it up. So I feel like we're on the right track, but it's just baby steps. But we're creeping in that direction.
And then for Matt, you know, coming off Chicago with the win, you had a decent weekend back out at Epping. Coming into these summer months, you're going to Bristol, like Seattle, Norwalk, and everything in between. With how strong your car has been early in the season compared to the struggles you faced earlier in the seasons last year, where is that team at now, and how helpful is that going to be when you step closer to that countdown, knowing that you already have probably the top car in the class right now?
Well, I mean, I don't know about top car in the class. There's a bunch of heavy hitters out there, but I think we're in grow mode right now. I think it's one of those things where we're trying some stuff. We have some opportunity to, you know, if we can throw that first dart and get in the program and be solid somewhat, you know, top half, you try to, you know, take a couple of those runs and experiment, do some different things. I know Dickie's wanting to try some things in the bell housing, some different things like that, and you know, I'm just kind of be consistent in doing the same thing I'm doing, so that when we do make changes, that they can say, oh, it's not our driver that's messing up, or, you know, no different than, you know, if you could be, you know, going after the tree up there every time, and you know, we change something on the car, if your reaction time is different, or so it's still just different things. So I think, you know, Tony Schumacher a long time ago, he says, be a machine, you know, and that kind of like set with me, is like, do the same thing every time, be consistent, and then you're the biggest variable in the car. So when you're in grow mode and trying to learn and trying to, you know, obviously be a big heavy hitter out there and find new things that we can come up with, you have to be probably the most consistent, almost like you're in countdown championship mode, because you're, like I said, you're a big variable. So as it gets hotter, as it gets greasier, it's going to be more challenging for everybody. I think that, you know, that and anybody that follows drag racing, it's easier to make these cars run faster than it is to pull them back, you know. So it's challenging coming out here to a 130-degree racetrack, and, you know, the tunnel over here in the left lane is super challenging and lots of bumps. So I mean, the biggest thing I want to do is put on a great show for these fans. I mean, there's so many friends and families, and, you know, folks that are wearing Hagan t-shirts, and people that are cussing me and hate me, you know, that are out there, that you know, you want to put on a good show, man. I mean, that's what we, at the end of the day, we're here to put on a show. We're showmen. Forrest told me a long time ago, he's like, kid, you don't get on TV much, you know. I was like, well, yeah, man, I'm young, you know, not one of the moon races you. He's like, no. He said, you got to roll on and act like you're on fire. He said, you know, you get on TV. And I said, hey, he figured it out, man. You know, he's a showman. So that's the biggest thing we want to do, is give the fans what they paid for. They work really hard for their money. This is like their vacation. You know, they camp out here, they come out, they do all this stuff, and we definitely don't want to see any like smoke fest and qualifying, and you know, we want to go out there and run as hard as we can. But like that, like I said, I think you have to throw the dart the first run, and then kind of go out there and make decisions after that. You know, if we always smoke the tires the first run, we're always behind the 8 ball. We're always trying to play catch up. We're backing up instead of moving forward. And so we're always, you know, every time we go out there first run and unload it and go down the racetrack, I always feel pretty good about the weekend.
So for the last couple of years, we always talked about this mythical big three that's been in the funny car with you, Height, and Hagan. Over the course of this year, we've seen the transformation where that door's been kind of open, where it used to be, you know, it used to be like every now and again you would have guys on some weeks figure it out and be able to run for the win. Now it's consistently having 5 to 7 guys each week coming in here that has a legitimate shot to win this race, and even now with growing for the championship fight too. How much challenging is it to win now in this class compared to what it was 3 or 4 years ago?
Great question, and we say it, and I feel dumb every time I say it, but every season we go into and throughout the season, we talk about this is the funniest, the most competitive season and field of funny cars. And how can you say that from 3 years ago? And how can you say it from 5 years ago? Because it was nuts as far as competitive levels. And we're seeing it right now. I'm on the end of a little bit of what we watched the last few years of other teams. Like Hagan's team, if you remember, they weren't running real well throughout the season. I mean, I would have these conversations with Matt, and he knows the deal. He's been out there. I brought him in as a teammate at DSR, and when he was new, I explained to him, you're going to have these peaks and valleys. But I knew they would find it, right? And you watched Tasca, how they ran last year, and Height's team actually struggled certain points of the year, but, you know, Jimmy Prock's going to find it. And I always feel the same way. It's not necessarily we're struggling, we were looking to get better in our team right now. And I think we have it, we just got to find the consistency. But it's still the toughest ever. And it's crazy because Hagan's team really struggled. I mean, they didn't run real well during the season, and they got hot and then kicked everybody's butt in the countdown. He's 4-time world champ. Height the year before, and we battled down the championship, but they weren't good at the beginning of the year. But you know, we know, and most of you that follow the sport know it's coming. And when it comes, they're going to get hot at the right time. I've been lucky because I've consistently been pretty good throughout the years, and then good when we had to be to win the championships. But I've also been in that situation where you struggle. That's when you love the countdown, if you're back there in 8th or 9th, right? It gets reset, and it's a new lease on life at that time. But it is still right now, when you roll up there, there is legitimately, I mean, you added some more cars this year and moved some talent around, and Timmy's tuning Daniel's car, and just the craziness of the how good the cars are running right now. It's just going to get better as we get into the later summer and start to get close to Indy. As you know, that's when everybody kind of starts firing on all 8 cylinders, right? We're going to see that again this year, and I fully plan on being part of that, but it is tough right now to go up there and consistently make run after run at that level. And Tasca's guys, they raised the bar, you know, at our Bradenton event, and of course going into the season. But when you start mentioning 1, 2, 3 people, you leave out J.R. Todd's and you leave out, you know, Chad Green's, and you feel bad about not mentioning names. Some dude named Forrest that's whipped their butts twice this year for a Wally. Crazy. You could right now go down the list. I bet there's 14 probably legitimate cars that have a shot that could win here on Sunday. You know, with the conditions and maybe hot. I know it's going to cool off Sunday, but like last weekend, you just don't know. Every weekend it seems like there's somebody in the semis that's a low dollar team, a part-time team that has made it into the Too Fast, Too Tasty, right? And so every given weekend, Haddock running this 3-second run, I mean, it's just crazy. So at first I always feel bad about saying it's the most competitive season ever. And then you start to go down the list, you're like, yeah, it is. When you start naming names. So yeah, it's got a work cut out for us. He's got a follow-up.
Yeah, I got one more follow-up. You mentioned Indy. You mentioned Indy, you know, coming into this 70th. Anything big planned to celebrate the 70th? Are you doing anything special like you did last year?
Working on it. I'm not sure how we would outdo what we did last year. There's only a couple things we could, and I'm working on one of them right now. So we'll see. Yeah. Last year there's no way to top. That was unbelievable. So. And what happened is now Don Perone texts me every morning. Literally, he's up in the mornings watching the shows. He's I wouldn't doubt he wants to come back out and just kind of hang out more.
So I asked you this back at Gainesville. I'm going to ask it again. You come into this weekend. You have all of these things around you. You're in the upper echelon of names with like Bob Glidden, Dave Schultz. You know, you're in the conversation with Andrew Hines and Matt Smith. Having all of these accolades and all of these things thrown at you, how are you able to keep this level-headed composure and not get yourself lost in the moment? Talk about the challenges that you face with trying to do that while still coming out here and keeping that streak alive.
I think what helps me the most with that is Andrew Hines. You know, he goes out, he always tells me, just go out there and ride the bike. You know, everything will just fall into place behind it. And so I feel like he's been a big mentor to me as far as, you know, all the media stuff, all the accomplishments we've made and accomplished, and you know, I gotta give a lot of credit to him. You know, he kind of keeps my head straight as far as just go out there, ride the bike, do what you need to do, and just go out there and focus on one thing, and that's win each race one by one. And you know, it's hard to keep it out of your mind. But to have my name with Bob Glidden, you know, Dave Schultz, the Snake, all those guys, it's very. I never would have imagined my name by those guys. You know, I grew up as a little kid watching them race and so on, and you know, Dave Schultz, John Myers, they're, you know, battling out. Now it's kind of me and Matt. You know, it's very cool, and I never would have ever dreamed to be in the situation I am. So I'm definitely just, you know, enjoying the ride and trying to soak in every little bit.
So we've seen over the last few weeks that mainly throughout the last few years, but just be you ending up either in the semifinals or the finals facing 3 KV cars. Within these last 2 races, we've seen, you know, Troy Coughlin Jr., we've seen Jeg come back and run for the finals, and now you're seeing Jerry Tucker himself start making those moves to bring the fight onto the KV cars. How does it feel knowing that your leadership role within that team, to see it all kind of morph together and now have a combined effort to go out there and fight these KV cars that you've had to kind of almost fight solo by the time you get to the Final Four?
Yeah, definitely. It always seems like we're surrounded, and it's kind of changing pace. And our strategy and the way that we race is different. We don't, you know, everybody wants to win every week they go out, right? But we don't ever really come out swinging. We focus on getting our hot race day set up so we can be successful through the summer, but it's all teeing up for those final 6 races. And we were perfect proof last year. Coming into Bristol, we were 15th in points. it's not how you start, it's how you finish, and it's the final 6. But having those guys under the Elite Motorsports banner, TJ Coughlin, Jake Coughlin, who is a legend and somebody who I learned a lot from, it's been really fun getting to race with him again. Jerry Don Tucker, again, was in the semis last week, and I had a hand in teaching him. The Quadra family, I take a lot of pride in teaching those boys as well. So my role, as you mentioned, has transitioned. While I still want to be super successful in the cockpit, it's kind of the mark that I want to leave when I'm done here with the whole legacy thing. I want to make their journey more fun and shorter than mine was. So that's my goal.
So John, last season with how that ended with the winless streak and not having the performance that you wanted, to come back into this year, not only as yourself, but the team as a whole, to come out here and be able to punch these guys in the teeth and put your spot back up on the top step. How much of a satisfaction is that for you guys to see the work that you guys did in the offseason to improve this team and get it back to that elite level that you guys were at a couple years ago?
It's always a team effort, and we work as our team. Jimmy Prock, Grubnick, everybody's working together on the cars, from the motor, the clutch, to everything we do. That's why you have a brain trust. Me and Coyle and Bernie, John Medlin, we all have that. Guido and all these kids that are now crew chiefs out here, other places. But we always work together to help each other, and we have that. And so it's really good for me because I need to deliver. I'm no spring chicken. I need to deliver for the young kids that are living the fight every day, every minute. And some days you get dragging. You get so tired, you sit down and think, man, I got to get up and keep moving. And because you want to do good for them, because they work so hard. They leave their families behind, their children sometimes, and they're out here, and you really want to do good. But give me a good race car, and I'll do good. I've had a good race car, really fast, and runs right on the edge, but it needed, a little bit of a balance to it, and of course me, I just got to get better on the tree, and that's what I'm working on. I can keep it in the groove. So my guys have finally got it where it's competitive. All could change tomorrow, you know what I mean, today, but I'm having a ball, and life is really good. My wife says, I haven't seen you smile in a year, you know what I mean? But I went and watched Jacob, Danny, my daughter Ashley, and Danny's 11-year-old, and Noah, 9, they drive the junior dragsters, but he just got a funny car, and in fact, it's coming to Dallas next week, and then he's supposed to be coming to Bristol, because I thought he meant this week, but watching him in that funny car was just awesome. He made like 7, I rented the track at Irwindale, and he made 7 runs, and it was just, we hot lapped it, but the first run a month ago, it hiked the front end up, and the kid had his hands full like, what is this all about? Little kids don't know that stuff, and so they put a wheelie bar on it and weighed out front, and they fixed it, and so I'm excited for that. And that's why I took the shoes back, because I'm trying to get him shoes the same color as mine, and he wanted those military-looking mixed, so I had a pair, and I went by Simpson. I said, I gotta have, you got white? He goes, yep, we make them in white too, with a mixed. And so I said, I'll send your shoes back, I won't wear them, so I just had my guy take them back. I don't get them dirty, and then I have to own them. What'd you ask? I don't remember.
And then for Prock, one thing I noticed is when John was having his top end interview, when he handed you that Wally and put you over and promoted you, I saw the emotion on your face as you turned around to walk back. What was going through your mind hearing him say the things that he was and giving you that, I guess, monumental leap, knowing that you're going to be the future of this team in the next few years?
Yeah, I was speechless. Like, I was in total shock. I had no idea he was going to say that. And, I mean, we've been talking about this for a really long time, but it's never been public. And when he said it, I was like, shit, John, you're not supposed to say that. Like, come on, man, you're the one that tells me I'm not supposed to say that. So I was just in shock, but it was really cool, and all the fans took it so well. You know, that can be a double-edged sword for sure, and you could get a lot of heat. But I think our performance this year has really gained a huge fan base in this sport, and you know, people are starting to take a liking to me, and when John says something like that, it's only going to help, you know. So all the comments on social media have been positive. I was afraid I was going to get, beat to death on there, but it's all been good. So yeah, I'm still in shock. The day that I get to, strap into his seat will be a very cool day.
You guys don't know this, but he's a pallbearer.
Yeah.
I got him on the list. That'd be good to.
Ooh, Matt got the better of it out here on the starting line. 683, Matt Smith. 199.64. So Matt Smith runs low ET, runs top speed, and goes to the top. .631. 206.92, and Erica goes back to the top. Crew Chief Jimmy Prock left, Crew Chief Johnny Lindbergh right. Check it out, 3.958. 317 miles an hour, Austin Prock goes to the top. Matt Tools, 45 years. Seems like they've been with Antron for 45 years. A lot of success, 75 wins between the motorcycle and the top fuel car. There we go. How about 3.786? 325 miles an hour, and Clay Millican takes Rick Ware Racing to the top.
So, Clay, the best way I can describe how your performances have been in the last few years is kind of like those mountains up at the top end of the racetrack.
Yep.
It's always been up and down, hot, and it's not. This year, it started off not so great after Bradenton, but you guys really picked it up these last 3 events going into this one. What was it that clicked for you guys that got this performance back up to where it needed to be, and how satisfying is it to see you guys back up here at this top step?
Yep, I mean, it's everything about this. Yes, you'll have strange, weird parts breakage. But this entire thing, everything, operates on people. And, you know, when your people are on it, you'll be sitting in this chair right here, number 1 qualifier. You know, and it doesn't matter if it's me making a mistake or one bolt that somebody missed. Those are the things that'll keep you from, you know, going rounds and that sort of thing. Now, yes, you can get into tune-up problems, but a tune-up problem actually goes back to people. And I love Jimmo and Nikki, and I'm not saying anything bad. There are plenty of races that I've cost us. So at the end of the day, you know, people are definitely the most valuable asset you have. No matter how many blocks and superchargers Rick buys for us, it's the people that put it all together that is what makes these things go fast, and it's also what makes this sport so special. It's not just the people working on the car, but those people in the grandstands and the people that listen to me ramble on like I am right now.
So that is going to wrap up our Friday video here at the Bristol Dragway. Once again, if you like the content we provide, be sure to subscribe to the channel today so you don't miss any of the content. Subscribe to the channel, like, comment your picks for Sunday down below, share the video with everybody you know so everybody can get exposed to this wonderful world of drag racing. Be sure to follow me on all the social media pages down below, MightyMac03 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Be sure to support our buddies over at Gutswear Racing. If you like sports car diecast, if you like IndyCar diecast, if you like t-shirts, vintage t-shirts and hats, if you like Formula One stuff, they got it there too. If you don't have NHRA yet, I am trying, I tell you, to get NHRA diecast in there, but right now they're just not interested. Hopefully someday they can change their mind. But again, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you Gutswear for their support for this weekend. And until Saturday night, this has been Mighty Mac. We will see you next time.